chew the fat anymore. I'm going to turn the time over to Gary, and we'll probably give you about an hour. Is that okay? With about a quarter after. You'll see me in the back waving, and it's about time to kill it. So, well, you'll see me in the back kind of going like that when it's about time up. So, did everybody get? He had a handout in the back, kind of what he's going to speak about this evening. So, well, let's give our attention to Gary, and thank you, Gary, for making it up here. And I think it'll be a totally awesome experience. Thank you.
You mentioned John Yerses. He and I were going to West High the same year. He was on the football team and I was on the track team. So now you know I'm an old guy. He's a good friend of mine. Okay, so thank you for coming.
Hold your mic a little closer.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I gotta get closer?
There you go.
There you go.
Got it.
Put it in your mouth.
You gotta use your mouth?
Put it in your mouth.
Put it in my mouth?
Yeah.
Are you trying to outstage me?
Prosecutor,
You can do it if you want.
Speech. I did enough of that years ago.
Did you? Okay, good. I like you guys because you're all individuals, you want to get rich on gold. Now, I know that, and I want to thank you all for coming because gold hunting is the favorite pastime time of a lot of people. Now, I've been in it for 10 years. I staked my claims in 2009, and we found no gold yet. But there's been several claim holders that I call the treasure era, never found any gold either, or treasure. So the Spanish Josephine gold mine and the Spaniards that hit it very well have succeeded up until now. And so you got to give them credit for that. We have a gentleman here that's part of that group. He comes from that descendant line, and he knows a lot about it. And in my website on the page 3, I quote him as being Paul. So you can read about a lot of it. My website is josephinegoldmine.com. And it's got all kinds of links. I didn't bring anything to show you because all you got to do is get on your phone and look at it. And if you go through everything that we did, I think you'll at least accept the fact that beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'll read this so I don't screw it up. No gold found yet, but I know beyond a reasonable doubt where it is, why most of it is still there, and how to get to it. So, and the rest of the hour, I'm going to try to prove that to you. But I want to start out with the history of the mine, back from what we think probably started with the Aztecs 10,000 years ago. There's a travel channel thing by a guy named Wolper that went to Mexico City and talked to a man in the archivist that had a map that was dated 1520, and this map showed the migration of the Aztecs back to Utah. They called this place their homeland, which was called White Land. And the reason they did that was because there were a lot of white birds here, and there still are. They're called seagulls. And they were part of the remnants of Lake Bonneville. And so those Spanish people had to migrate from here because Lake Bonneville dried up. And so they have on their flag, the Mexican flag, they have their greatest, their spiritual leader said, you've got to go, and when you see an eagle on a cactus tree with a snake in his mouth, you're at the right place. And so Cortez, of course, captured Montezuma. He killed him. He got a lot of gold, and the rest of the Aztec people took a migration back to Utah to bring the gold back from where they originally took it from. And so that is, I think, is what you call forensic evidence, if you have a map to that effect, which is very good. You might want to check it out. His name's Wolper, and it was several months ago, and he did it on a travel channel. And so that's where I think the Josephine started. Now, after that, and this is the history, they got mined. That's a mining era, obviously. The next part was more mining era, which was in 1898. A guy named William Bernard published in a newspaper in Salt Lake the fact that he had found the Josephine mine and went into a lot of details. You can find a copy of that on my website. You can pull it up on your phone or whatever you want. He named Hoyt's Peak. In that article, he said, I called the peak Hoyt's Peak. So, as I understand it, that means that that's when Hoyt's Peak got its name. All right? So then we've got another mining era, which was San Jose Pueblo. And this is during the not the Gale Roads, the Tom Rhodes era in Brigham Young. And in 1851, this U.S. Marshal named Kimball captured this man who said that he had mined. He was the captain of a mining team of 4 people, or 4 mining crews. And you can read all that on there too. He said he went down a particular mine and he described it to a T, and I've got the GPS coordinates and all of that stuff. So it might be a change in the history that we know about Wakara. All right. In fact, page 2 says, legend or lie, the Wakara story. So you can check that out too. I've got a lot of information about it. And so, and you can read the actual Kimball report, which was printed in the Salt Lake Tribune. So it's my position that Pueblo, who was captured by the U.S. Marshal for trying to run slaves out of Utah because he didn't dare do any more mining, he told Marshal Kimball that in 1842, he came here with 4 mining teams. They mined at this particular mine that's described here, which is the mine that is on my website that shows a couple of people on it with a big, you can see them, okay? So you want to check that out. And they took all the nuggets they could carry. That's 4 mining teams. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of gold. And so, go ahead.
The Holt's Peak you're talking about, is that the one by Oakley?
Yes. It's
Okay.
near Oakley, yeah.
I hunted that peak. Okay, fine.
Yeah, there's one
Just
here.
wondering.
Okay, so that's what I call a mining era. Okay, then we've got Kimball, we've got Bird Report, and then now we've got the treasure area. Now, this has to do with John Young. It has to do with Gale Rhodes and Steve Schaefer, and it has to do with June Blythe. They were looking for treasure. They spent a lot of time up there. Rhodes and Steve spent 15 years up there, and they didn't find any gold. So I don't have an excuse for not finding it, but neither did they. Okay. So after that, we've now got me, and I'm the one that thinks that it's still there. I still want to share it with people who can go up there on a no-cost lease and look for the gold. And we have people who here will go down the cave for you, the tunnels, the mine caves, and actually safely clear and look at the 700-foot level, which is where the gold's supposed to be. And the Garcia bill said that they encountered virgin silver at 450 feet, and then of course it must have gone down farther than that. But anyway, all of this stuff I'm telling you, rather than going into a lot of detail, all you have to do is go on my website, and it's, I think, pretty well described. I'm just hitting on the high points, all right? And I'm trying to put it together. Okay, so what we did last summer was scan the major mines, 6 of them, with an underground survey apparatus. And on my YouTube, you can see what results we got from that. And this can go down 150 feet. You'll see that we showed that. It shows tunnels in 3D and color. And it also tells you whether there's precious metals in there. And we have scientists who have actually operated that equipment who worked for the Department of Defense and used it extensively for years. They even had a mine of their own out in Nevada that they used this for. And they found a lot of things in Vietnam, and not Vietnam, but of course Iraq and everything for the U.S. government. They were the people, and you'll see on the YouTube, one of the YouTubes that we have, something about that. So I'm still back in the gold mining era, but we haven't found it yet, but we need your help to discover it and mine it. I've located 58 man-made excavations at Point Peak. They're all over the place here. I'll be able to point some of them for you. And next spring, when we can get up there, we're gonna start uncovering them. Well, after we've scanned them. This scan will actually locate it, tell you if it's, potentially a tunnel, and whether there's precious metals in it, how far the cap is that the Spanish put on the mine, so that we wouldn't even know it was there, which is one of the reasons that the other people couldn't find them, because they're so excellent as far as just as concealing their mines. And that's why that particular area hasn't had much activity, except for just what we've done up there as far as going down the shaft and locating some calcite crystals that we marked and stuff like that. So, okay. Okay, so that part is that. Now, my era started in 2009. My brother, I lived in Pebble Beach, California for 25 years. And so when my father died, I decided I better come back and reintroduce myself to my family. My brother, he had what you call OCD a little bit. He get into something and he'd get into it too much. And at that time, he bought a book from a guy that says that it was written of lust, of men of gold. And so we located a man who we knew by the name of Vern Carter, who lived in Tabiona, and his brother had actually hauled cement and gravel for John Young for his foundation up there when he was doing it. It was in 1938. And so he brought me up there, showed me where it was, told me what the story was with John. And then that same fall, I went up there, and he said, that's where the mine is, that's the main mine, all that. So he told us where it was. I went up there and showed it to my brother, and so then I decided to put my hands on the cement rim that June Blythe had put on it. He'd done that. And when I started going off the hill, my hands on the back part got black. And the black wouldn't go away. This is the honest to God truth. And it took about 2 weeks, and I decided maybe there was a message in this. So I checked BLM. The mine was up for claim. It involved past June of adding it because of not filing his maintenance fee. And so I was able to actually claim the mine. And I think that's why, since I decided to do that, about a couple of days after that, the black went away. Now, that's a weird story, but it's the truth. And I hate to say it, but I think there's things up there that we have no control over. And if you go up there with greed, you may not be treated kindly. Okay, that's my opinion. I've had several instances where both sides of that have been up there, and the ones that were with greed seem to have all kinds of problems afterward. So, no cost lease. There is a consideration charge that I charge for the research I've done, and I might have to do. To make it a real lease, it has to have consideration. So all of that is on page 3. You can actually look at the lease document. I'm not interested in making money off of you. I'm interested in making money off what you get. And the first $1 million, if you get it, which seems ridiculous, we split 50-50. And then after that, it's a percentage. You go on a joint venture, and then we bring to the table what you want to contribute. And we're going to have mining co-ops so that we don't have to sell it to the big mining consortiums and have them go up there and tear the hell out of the terrain. This is going to be a low-impact, non-mechanized process, and that's all explained in page 3, so that all of you can share in what's up there. Okay. Okay, now, what I want to do now is ask the questions, and then we're going to bring some of the people up that we've got as a team to help make this thing work next summer. And so, you got a question?
Where exactly is it located? from canvas, like how far up or whatever?
If you go on the internet and you go to Google Earth Pro and you zoom out, you'll see Camas, well, that's about 45 minutes away. Then you go north 5 miles to Marion. And then from Marion, there's a road there's an IFI thing on the one corner there on the east, the southeast corner. You turn right there, now you're going right to Hoyt's Peak. And you'll see a weller's place there, and then there's a road that goes up there. I just talked to the new engineer for the Forest Service. His name's Ryan Stone, and they're gonna chip the road. It's in their process. There's a road right now, you're taking your life in your hands. You get up there, but it's not, I don't want you going on that road and saying, I wish you had told me this. I don't want to get into this outfit if this road is not fixed. So it is gonna be fixed. Go ahead.
You said IFI, you mean IFA?
Intermountain Farmers
Oh,
Association.
IFA.
Yeah, you can't miss it. And that's the road you go up. Now, when you go up there, there's about 14 different ways you get lost, because there's this way and that way and everything else. So the best thing to do if you're gonna go up there is to find someone that knows how to go to take you up there. But of course, on Google Earth, you can just follow the road and it'll take you right to Hoyt's Peak. And then as long as you got your waypoints right, you'll be fine. Any other questions? I wasn't that good. I didn't explain everything that well. There must be somebody.
When do we start?
What's that?
When do we start?
When the snow
Okay.
melts.
I talked to these two gentlemen here, and they've been talking about finding mines here, there, and everywhere.
Put your mic up.
Okay,
There you go.
I talked to, thank you. I talked to them, and they said that they found a lot of mines. Now, here's some of the suggestion I have for all of you. There's a thing called the Freedom of Information Act. And the fact that the Forest Service or the BLM or whatever, they have a record with GPSs of all the mines they've closed, and yet all the mines that they are scheduling for closing that they haven't yet. And some of them probably are Spanish mines that still have gold in them. You can request a list of all those mines, there's thousands of them, and have a list of all the mines that they found with GPSs. I didn't know if you do that or not. They didn't seem to know that because they were telling me about all the mines they found here, there, and everywhere. Usually when you get around one of those Spanish mines, like we had at Hoyt Peak, we located 58 of them, and every one that we located within about a quarter-mile radius, we found about 8 to 10 more. So there were hundreds of mines up there. They mined that area for 500 years, it's documented. And so we've been, as a nation, about 275 years. They mined that area, and in the entire West, plus, of course, other places, for twice as long as we've existed as a nation. So that's a lot of activity level. They are expert at hiding their mines, and I have a gentleman here that will explain how that works. You want to come up now, Paul? This guy's name is, on my website he's called Pablo, because Paul means Pablo. So he's going to give you some information he's got, and I think probably he's an experienced discoverer of mines. He lived in Mexico for several years. He's found several arrestas. I think I pronounced that right. And so, and he's got some stories that if all you want to do, Paul, just tell him your stories. I'd appreciate it. Can you do that?
I wasn't prepared to give a story or anything and answer your question.
Oh, okay. How many mines have you found in Mexico and Arizona that you know were Spanish?
7.
7. Did you, the details of those mines were what? Were they,
They were all Spanish mines.
all Spanish mines? How do you know when it's a Spanish mine?
The symbols and the way they're constructed.
What,
The age.
what about all the tree signs?
They didn't use tree signs, they used cactus signs and rock signs.
And rocks down there. So have you, he's got a story of some people that came up here and worked for him way back when, who were a descendant of the Spanish miners that had a map, who was coming up to mine the mines, and that was in 1980. There's been several reports of them coming up and actually still mining in Utah, which was a huge area for gold mining in the West. Right. Okay, do you have any other things besides signs that you could identify the mines by?
We found one mine. We were looking through some archives in Arizona, and this Morenci Mining Company in 1904 was developing a mine in Mexico. And John Rice made the report on it, and it gave the location. We've actually found that one by researching the old archives.
Okay. He mentioned to me that the Spanish, he found some places where they rocked up their mines, and they had these perfect rocks that were square. They put it in, and then they, as I understood what you said, they would grind granite, put it with donkey blood.
No, they just make a mortar out of the granite, sand and dust,
Yeah,
and then they plaster that over the stone, so it looks like a boulder.
so it looks like a boulder.
In one of the corners, the water had eroded it, and the corner fell off, and so you could see the square blocks of stone covering the entrance.
Yeah. So they were very crafty. They have succeeded in keeping most of their mines obscured to this date, and they're still mining. I have a mine up there, we call it the Descendant Mine, where we've actually, and you'll see in my website, a tool they used with their, and it actually, it's a rod that's got, it's got a hook on one side and it's rounded on the other side. And 2 or 3 years ago, that particular mine, which is not far from our camp, had posts in it. They're taken out, and there's plenty of recent mining that's been gone there. There's a lot more stuff that's come out of it. You'll see all that on my website. It's on one of our YouTubes. We have YouTube. All of my website, it's 3 pages, and at the bottom of each page is a YouTube link. And then all through that are all of these documents and everything I've talked about. Plus the scans, you can actually see 6 of the scans that we did. The one that was most impressive is right, let's see, I'm going to point it out for you. It's up there. Okay, it's way up there. You go up this road right here, and then right there is one of the mines that you'll see that we have a picture of it being a pre-Columbian mine. And that particular tailings was reported in 1899 in the Deseret Herald, that a group of people that were mining experts had gone up and assayed the tailings that were still laying there, and actually you'll see on my website a picture of that tailing, which is right by what Rhodes and Schaefer called the Josephine, which it wasn't. The Josephine is someplace else, but they sold a lot of quitclaim deeds on that one. So we don't do that. It's leases, no cost, with consulting fee. So go ahead.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you were just yawning.
I was just scratching.
I didn't know that. My peripheral.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Okay, so that particular pile of rocks that I've located, we have pictures of the white quartz in it, and that particular pile of rocks is huge, and it was described in 1899 by Bird and a group of mining experts with professional assay people that went up there, and they took a assay of that particular pile of rocks, and they said on the newspaper said that it estimated that there was $100,000 worth of gold in that fine mill gold in that pile. That was when gold was $20.67. Right today at $1,600, that's over $8 million that's lying on the ground with a road to it. Right now, that's one of the first things we're going to do up there. That gives you an idea about what the potential of this place is like. That's documented forensic evidence. It's irrefutable. And so that's why I say beyond a reasonable doubt, I think I know where it's at. And I ask all of you to check out everything I've said. Go, on the website, do your own independent investigation before you think about anything about going up trying to find more. All right. The same area is where one of the previous claim holders called the bear hole, which I call the Pueblo mine, because Pueblo was the first one to let Kimball and Rhodes show them where it was. And right after that, in 1852, Brigham Young commissioned Rhodes, who lived in Camas, to go up and bring out over a few years 1,500 pounds of gold. Those are all documented facts. And so that's another thing you might want to check out. The story about Wakara, I believe, was a cover story to keep people from going up there and having a gold rush like the 49. Because if it hadn't been that there's this Indian war chief, that said, okay, I'm going to let you go up there and take gold because I think, you're the tall hats. And that was the story. That was the cover story. But if you ever tell anybody where it is, I'll kill you and all your family. And we'll kill anybody that goes up there. That would, I'm sure, make a few people who wanted to find out where the mine was think twice. That would probably stifle a gold rush. And I think at that time, Brigham Young didn't want thousands of people coming into the state and taking over Utah as they did in California. So that was his story. I'm sticking to it. And I think that's what happened. And that's what I've explained in page 2. So that might be a rewrite on history that you've never heard before. Because I know a lot of you know that story about Wakar. Go ahead.
How would the Indians have found those mines initially?
Chief Wakara was a war chief. He would go into Salt Lake City and kidnap Paiute Indians all the way out in the desert, bring them to the Spanish, and he sold them for, in our money now, $150 a piece. And at one time, the Spanish archives recorded up to 500 slaves up there mining this area. That's the huge potential that's in this 15 square mile area.
But they knew where the mines were.
Yes.
How did originally they find the mines?
That's a good question. I think it's when Cortez's people followed the Aztecs, who were now taking the gold that they'd gotten from up here back to its origination, so that they couldn't steal the rest of their gold.
Well, how did the Aztecs find it?
They were the original inhabitants. This was their homeland before Lake Bonneville dropped. That's when they went and migrated to Mexico 10,000 years ago. So, and there's a record, that's why I brought that up right off the bat, was there's a record in the archives in Mexico City, a map, and you can trace it to this guy named Wolper, who did a documentary on it on the Travel Channel, and you can actually see the map. You can see from where Mexico City was, and it has a Spanish map that shows it going right to Salt Lake City. And it says on there something like, I forget, Avadaban or something, which means our homeland. So the Aztecs, long ago, were mining here. And their gold was the purest gold in Mexico. And there was no mines that you could get gold that pure. But free gold basically is nuggets and fried gold, which is 99% to 90% pure. And the only place in Utah that's been recorded to be by a guy named Word and all the assay people in Salt Lake was Josephine. That's the importance of this particular project. Did that answer your question?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so. Of course, in I think it was 1660, the Spanish were called the Pueblo Revolution Revolt, that they ran all the Spaniards out of this area. They killed a lot of them. The ones that were up here, we've got actual reports from people, and you can read it, from a war chief from Colorado that came here to show them where the Josephine was, that said that they actually, they hid the mines. They said, okay, we're gonna let you leave. We're not gonna kill all of you. This is what the Spanish, or the chief was telling these two kids that finally got to Salt Lake. You can read the story. And they said, we told them, you destroy any evidence of your presence here. You cover over all the mines so nobody can ever find them. And if you don't do it, within a certain period of time, we're going to kill all of you. And that was the edict by the people that were here, the Utes, who, by the way, their language is Aztec. And so they're the people that were left, I guess, that didn't go migrate in Mexico. Those are all things that you can, it's very exciting to me about rewriting the history of Utah and its significance as far as gold and gold mining, and the history speaks for itself. I just found it through seminars we did last year, starting for about 3 months, and then we went up and spent about 3 or 4 months on the Hill, following everything that we discovered from different things. There's a guy named Damien. I think he brought a lot of stuff to us. I don't know. He said he was going to be here in disguise, but I don't see him anywhere. I guess he thought I was going to say I found all this. No, he brought it. He's the guy that was the main contributor to our research at that time. Great guy. And so I'm giving you this information so you can go check it out for yourself. And you can do it with my website. You'll see the actual reports and everything else. And so the other mine, the one that we have a picture of that says it's pre-Columbian, it's got a couple of people standing by it. It was a pre-Columbian mine, supposedly. And so it was the one that Byrd reported taking assays with. And he formed a mining company, and then a couple of other people from the military bought some claims from him. We actually have a copy of the quitclaim deeds. A guy named Hudson bought the claim to the one mine, the one that was called the Bear Hole. Okay, and the reports he got, which it was published by the Mining Journal, was $5,000 a ton in gold. Now that's at $20.67. That's over $400,000 a ton now. And it's only, you only have to go based on Pueblo down to the 700-foot level, and you can take solid nuggets out of that mine. In 1898, Byrd's son said, we went into that mine, but there was a debris field there at 300 feet. And the Spanish liked to do all kinds of things. He'll tell you that they were ingenious people to keep people away from their mines. They had no qualms about the fact that they might not have sovereignty over the surface. It might be as what happened to them, the Pueblo Revolt, and then the Mexican Revolution, and then we took over, and then we, through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, took over the area that they'd been mining for 500 years, that they'd already hidden all the mines, or they got killed. So that's the history that I don't think people understand is part of our heritage. And so you as a group...
What's interesting is the symbols that are painted on the rocks in Mexico match symbols that I found here in Utah. They're the same.
I didn't know that. You just told me that.
Yeah, they're the same. The same type of symbols, the same paint, the same symbols. They're all the same in Mexico as they are here.
Wow.
So proves they were here.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've got some figures to work with. You've got an $8 million pile of white quartz that you can just drive to from a main road, and it's got fine free milled gold in it. It was reported in 1899 by a guy named Hudson that said that's what he got out of it. It had nothing to do with any salting of the other mines, supposedly it was up here. And so we've got that report. And so then we've got what used to be called the barrel hole. We renamed it because Pueblo was the one that showed Kimball and Rhodes where the Josephine was. And there's plenty of documentation of that based on the Kimball report. You'll see that. He was a U.S. Marshal. He arrested him. He came and you'll read his whole story. It's intriguing. Go ahead. You're not scratching anymore?
No,
Okay.
not scratching. Is there going to be an club outing up that way, coming up? Is something where we all could schedule to go up there?
Continual with many people, and we've got a beautiful designated mining camp that's been given to us by the Forest Service, including latrines and everything else, because I got a plan of operation in mind up there when I was fighting the Forest Service about opening up the two mines. I've already talked to Ryan Stone about it. We're going to this year we're going to go up there with an excavator and open up both the cave and this particular mine that I'm talking about. And the debris field, there's a guy named Mike White that worked for Bleish, who told me he went in that mine, and at 300 feet there was a debris field. And so I'm reading about William Byrd's son, reporting the same thing in 1899. He went in that mine and ran into that debris field. That debris field could have been stacked rocks with indigenous stuff on it, so you think you can't go any farther. And this Mike guy, he said, I wanted to go over the top of it because I knew, it was an extension of something important, but I didn't dare. All right. Now, I'd like the two people right over there. It's Jeremy and Keith are going to come over here, and they're not going to be as scared of it, or any of the other mines that we open up. And they're going to introduce themselves and tell you what part they're going to have up at Hoyt Peak this summer. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Jeremy McLeod.
You got to get closer.
How's this? All right. So I've been exploring abandoned mines for 5-6 years now. Got into caves. I've got a background in rock climbing, canyoneering, and cave rescue, things along those lines. And we're here to help Gary out from getting himself lost in these cave mines.
Hi, my name is Eric, and yeah, kind of. I think the reason Gary wanted us here is if you guys find a hole and it goes down and you don't have the gear, you can contact us through Gary. I personally, I live to be underground. Full disclosure, I'm not a gold enthusiast, but if you've got an unexplored hole that you would like checked out, I would love to be a part of that. I'm trained in both small party assisted rescue in confined spaces, some other cave rescue stuff. I've helped create several cave maps. I've done 60 or 70 caves in Utah and several mines with this guy over here. But yeah, I love being underground. If you need eyes underground, I'm happy to get down there, let you know, looks like a mine, looks like a cave, and so forth. So, yeah.
That guy told me he didn't want to talk too much. He did well. They're all certified too with the. What was the name of the?
That's a National Cave Rescue Commission.
So they've got all the equipment to sense whether there's bad air, no oxygen, SO2, whatever. So they're your lead guy. I guess we could call them cave hounds to make it simple.
Yeah,
Will you live with that?
We're not exactly afraid of heights.
Right. They've descended 1,200-foot shafts, by the way. They are experts. You don't want to go down these things without them going first, or somebody like them. Maybe you can get your own people, but I wanted to make sure that you knew they were available. And they say they're not going to ask for any money, And I said, well, you mean you're gonna go down in these mines? And Kimball's prisoner, Pueblo, gave Kimball a couple of nuggets from the Josephine. And then after he left his custody, which was in about 8 weeks, Kimball mentioned later in the year that he had another nugget that was given to him, which was probably from Rhodes, and he had it minted in the Hayes Mint in Salt Lake, and he gave it to his father. So that kind of connects Rhodes with the mine without actually saying that the Wakara story was fake news, and for a reason. Brigham Young didn't want another gold rush in Salt Lake, you know, and in Utah, and so I have no fault for that. It's probably the best thing. You know why? Because now we can do it. But we're already residents, and we don't need to worry about someone else coming in and getting it, because I own the claims. I've got 100 acres that cover the whole Hoyt Canyon Fault up there, and another 500 acres of contiguity rights. So I can control with you how this works up there. Any question?
Tell them a story about your son getting lost, and that better help to explain.
Yeah, I sent them a story. When I first, back in 2013, we put a ladder and a steel cap on the, what I call the Pueblo shaft. And right after that week, my son and the guy that helped me put it down wanted to go down and discover it, because now they didn't have to do ropes like had been done before. And so they went down. I said, now don't go past the first room or you'll get lost. They did. They got lost for 5 hours. The one guy didn't go down with enough stuff to keep him warm. He almost died from hypothermia. And my son wrote a story about it, and I can send that to you. And it's or these guys here, if you want to get there, if they're willing to give you their website, I imagine they will, or their email or whatever, they're willing to do that, because they said they'll be available, and if you people like to check out this type of stuff before you do anything, they can probably forward that story to you.
Because if you guys go down there and get lost, we'll get a call anyways, so we'll come and find you for the cave rescue.
So I'd like to take an opportunity to go on a safety rant for just a minute. Even if you're not dealing with a vertical shaft, we have dozens of people that die underground every year. The #1 cause of that is hypothermia, because people go underground. Even if you're going into an opening where it's 50 degrees, something like that, 50 degrees will kill you over a couple days. Keep warm, take a couple lights, get a headlamp and a helmet, take backup batteries for your lights. I mean, we're talking about a go bag like that big, you know? Take enough calories with you to survive for a day, because if you twist an ankle, it's a little bit of a bigger deal, a lot bigger deal than if you're above ground, yeah.
What about bad air?
They have all that equipment. They'll sense that when they go down, you've been doing it for what?
I've been exploring all the data mines in Eureka area, Milford, and I take oxygen meters with me, you know, the 4 gas, 5 gas. Huh?
You've been a favorite till you're 14.
I started rock climbing when I was 14.
When did you start caving?
5 years ago.
5 years.
Yeah.
How about you?
Something like that.
This guy here is the president of the Tip and Nose
gosh.
Caving thing, are you?
Yeah. Anyway.
He's got a lot of other people that have the same qualities he has. And so you don't need to go down these mines and get lost and die.
Please
You
don't.
You don't need to mine it. When
Body
you
recovery is not a
let
good
somebody else
fun
do the
time
mining.
either.
They're gonna have a cap on them, because that's what they had to cap them, they didn't. The Native Americans wouldn't let it go. So we've got scans that have already identified voids and precious metals.
You gotta grab the bike back.
Well, I have it real quick. Bad air, if you've got something that's drafting air, most natural caves, they'll either be blowing or sucking air in. And we just don't have problems with bad air. I can think of maybe a couple caves that we have had recorded somewhat high CO2 levels or things like that. If you're in something that's obviously man-made, or if you have something rotting, if you have a lot of timbers with fungus on them, fungus will, it consumes oxygen, creates carbon dioxide.
Biological decomposition.
Yeah, any kind of decomposition.
And
it's
if there's no
keep
airflow,
out,
you'll
kinda.
get low oxygen levels. It won't be
Yeah.
bad air, you just run out of air.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, you probably wanna trust people like this with your force, because if you don't, you might not be able to spend it. Does that make sense?
And we'll go on with cameras.
Yeah.
GoPros and all that, so.
Yep.
And not
Bulging
only,
pockets.
not only that, they'll bring a gunny sack if they're going down to the 700-foot
Right,
level,
yeah.
or the 450-foot level, where Garcia said he encountered virgin silver, and then after that, 50% silver and 20% gold, free gold. And that's the nature of this particular form. It's what's called a catastrophic low sulfidation epithermal vent. It's a blanket of gold, pure, free gold, 400 feet thick, and 15 square miles underground. And you can go to any of the geophysical journals and they'll describe it exactly for you. That's why they could mine it for 500 years and never run out. And the last one that took a huge amount of gold out of it was San Jose Pueblo, and it's documented. They took 4 mining teams, and they took all the gold they could carry out of it in 1842, and that was the last time until Rhodes did some mining, and he took 1,500 pounds out of it. And that's what. The total volume of gold based on that, if you crunch the numbers, 15 square miles of 400 feet of gold, that's $140 trillion that could be there. Still, that's a lot of gold. That could revolutionize the world economic system. But again, it's potential. It's all conjectural. We don't know, but we know every place there was a tunnel, there had to be gold, because you can see their stash up above where they put some of the gold. And so I invite you all up there to check us out. We've got a camp, we've got a plan of operation. We're a mining company. It's called Josefina de la Martinique Mining Company. It's licensed in the state, and it's licensed for mining and consultation, and the Forest Service recognizes it. We've got a full mining camp with all the facilities you need for your toiletries or whatever. You can bring whatever you want on. If you've got a lease that's in the most beautiful area in the world, actually, Hoyt's Peak. And so you have all of the natural things at the alpine level, 10,000 feet, that you otherwise would have to go to a Forest Service camp someplace and sit in a camp someplace where you're listening to somebody else's generator. And you gotta leave in 2 weeks. Here, you can stay there all year round. You can mine these mines. They're at 54 degrees, like you said, but you'll wear warm clothes, or they will wear warm clothes. So it's a year-round mining activity. If you're taking out nuggets of gold, and these guys come out to that mine with a gunny sack of 20 pounds of gold, I'd frisk them or make sure that they have a definite.
We got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Is this a patented claim?
No, it's not. The patent claims were discontinued in 1986, I think it was. President Clinton changed the 1872 mining law from the patent claims and discovery claims from a fee simple, which meant that the patent claims would be, and they amended the 1872 mining law, and the 103rd Congress did, so that you have now what's called an estate claim instead of a fee simple claim, which has more advantages. If you have an estate, you have a claim as it is now, and somebody goes down your mine without them knowing about it, they trip on a rock, you're not liable. Because it's also, if it's public land, it's Forest Service, then you don't, before, if you didn't take care of precautionary things before that date, then you could be liable. Somebody got hurt around your claim, going into whatever it didn't matter if you didn't have adequate ways to preserve, to protect it. And so there's a lot of advantages, a lot of disadvantages. He did that because that way, if you had a claim and you had an estate claim, you could lease it. You couldn't lease it as a fee simple. So that's why Queen Elizabeth owns 30% of Rio Tinto, because when she takes the gold out of our state and our nation, she has to pay a tax on it. And that's one of the ways our beloved Clinton made sure that our budget went down to zero, where we didn't owe any money, because that was a huge amount of money that we were collecting on taxes, because foreign governments could come in, which they have with Rio Tinto, Newmont, all of them. And the big mining companies we're going to keep out, because they have bad habits of putting down a deposit. I've got a friend in the Henry Mountains who owns that bunch of claims, and he's had 2 or 3 different mining companies come in and give him $250,000 just to explore it. And then they say, well, we'll give you $250,000 a month when we start mining. He never saw another penny. They mined it for a year. His name's Bobby. I won't give you his last name, but he owns the Josephine mines down at Henry Mountain. 58 claims he's got out there on the side of the hill. And so they sued him to get the $250,000 back. He had to hire an attorney down in Price firm to get his claims back, because they wanted to keep him. He had to sue him. And then after he won that suit, $10 million, they went to Israel. So he couldn't collect it. And the attorney, this is a true story, it's a horror story about a mining company. The attorneys then sued him to keep the claims for their legal fee, and they didn't get any money from the defendant, and so he had to spend another $150,000 to get his claims back from them. And all of his family, his relatives, and everyone that owned claims, they had to go without eating for 2 years while that fight was going on. And that's a can of worms, and that's not going to happen up there. We're not going to have big money, a lot of money at all, up there trying to invent ways to keep our claims. I'm going to keep them. They're all going to be leased. They're all going to be leased with understanding that you've got a mine. You can't just leave it up there and have it be a recreational area. You've actually got to show meaningful results, or after a year, it's null and void. You can't just go up there to camp. So that's one thing you need to know about my offering, and you'll see all that in the lease agreement. So, any more questions? Go ahead.
What type of equipment can we use?
I use a shovel and a pick, because all you're going to have to do after we've scanned it, it'll tell you how thin the plug is that Spanish put on it, and then it'll show the void after that, and then whether it has precious metals in it. So, however, it could be, one of them was only 3 feet. It's only about a half a block from our camp, our main camp. The other side of it was 10 feet, so it was probably the tunnel. The other one's probably a stash or something. So that's all you need is a pick. I found some old not prehistoric, and very old picks up there right next to my camp. And you'll see on my website and the YouTube, you'll see pictures of a lot of Spanish markings that this gentleman has looked at and has confirmed that it looks Spanish to him, right? And so it wasn't somebody kid up there trying to, it's not that, it's too detailed, it's too totally, I call it art, it's tree art. It's on aspens, so an aspen will only live in Utah for 150 years at that level. So it has to be since then, and these trees are about 2 decades old. So if this expert says they're Spanish markings, which is where the descendants, when they come up, it tells them exactly where to dig. So it's a kind of a reserve or workers' comp without having to put any money in it. And they just take what they can carry and leave. And they've been doing it for 500 years. We've been supporting Mexico's workers' comp union for a long time with our Utah Gold. And it's about time that it should have stopped. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to help ourselves with it now. They've had enough. What do you think?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
I think so too. So if you're gold hunters and you want to get gold, this might be the best place to get more than just that $2 an hour that most gold hunters make when they go out getting gold. Go ahead.
This pile of quartz that you mentioned up there that's got the free mill gold in it, what's stopping you from processing that, running that through?
There's a place in Heber called Brentman. They have crushers for getting it to the fine powder thing, and then they've got portable smelters. I've got one guy that's a resident there who's got a helicopter that's going to bring his equipment in to this $8 million worth of pile we've got, and he can take his helicopter with his equipment anywhere you want him to go with a mill and a smelter right on spot. The Forest Service, they have no qualms about doing that, or if you want to put it in a wagon, but it's not motorized, you can take it to your mine, wherever it is on the hill. They're all over the place. You'll see it on the website. That is your question?
Yeah. Thank
It
you.
covers them completely. They have their jurisdiction is surface only. If you're gonna mess up the surface, then they have to, then you give them a notice of intent, and if they agree that you're not gonna mess up the surface with the procedure by which you're mining, then they just send a letter back and say, go ahead. And that's what will happen. My mine is an established mine. It's got a plan of operation. That's why you can camp up there all year round and mine in these mines all year round. Because you got people going down and picking up these nuggets the whole 12 months. So when I said, and I know how to get it, I'd like to ask your response. Do you think I've done the homework to see that I know how to get it? If yes, raise your hand. If you think I didn't do enough, don't raise your hand. Thank you. I've got business cards up here. I'm going to give this back to Phil. Thank you, guys.
Okay, before everybody jumps up, who